New sanctions. The Biden administration announces measures against China. We're at the White House. Eye on Texas. Why the Department of Justice is raising questions in the Lone Star State. And countdown to Christmas. Preparations are underway in the Philippines. On EWTN News Nightly for Thursday, December 16th, 2021. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. I'm Tracy Sable. We start tonight with some good news. The remaining 12 members of a U.S.-based Christian missionary group kidnapped in Haiti 2 months ago have been set free. Ohio-based Christian Aid Ministries revealed the news in a statement earlier today. However, the group provided no further information. 17 missionaries were abducted in Haiti in the middle of October. 5 were released a few weeks ago. The Ohio group says today's news is because of the glory of God and is the answer to a lot of prayers. A case involving nuns, Catholic hospitals, and the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services went before the Eighth Circuit Court of Appeals yesterday. The contention comes over an HHS mandate for hospitals to perform sex reassignment procedures. The Catholic hospitals argue the mandate forces healthcare providers to perform potentially harmful surgeries on patients, including children. Joining me now to discuss this is Roger Severino, Senior Fellow at the Ethics and Public Policy Center and Director of EPPC's Health and Human Services Accountability Project. Roger, welcome back. Always so great to see you. Talk to us more about this case and the history behind it. I understand 2 lower courts previously struck down the mandate.
Yes, and it's complicated legally, but it really comes down to this. Does the federal government have the ability to force doctors and religious employers to perform sex reassignment surgeries or cover that through their insurance? This is under the Affordable Care Act, Section 1557. It's an anti-discrimination provision, and there's been a lot of back and forth from the Obama administration through Trump through now Biden as to whether or not the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, requires these sorts of experimental treatments, especially on minors. The Trump administration said no, it does not. The Biden administration most recently has said it's going to apply the law to cover transgender issues. Now, you have dueling court decisions saying you cannot do this and another saying you can, and it's now being elevated to the Circuit Court of Appeals. I'm very interested to see how it's going to go. But the bottom line point is now the administration currently is pushing very aggressively, despite being struck down twice by federal district courts, to push this sort of transgender policies on unwilling doctors and businesses of faith.
Roger, can you talk a little bit more about the argument the Biden administration is using in this case? And also, how does the Bostock versus Clayton County case, how does that case play into all of this?
So the arguments that are before the court right now are about standing, a technical doctrine as to whether or not the harm is impending or not. The question as to why this case has gone as far as it's gone is because what happened after the Bostock decision. This was a Supreme Court decision that said sex discrimination does actually cover transgender status for Title VII employment discrimination. The Biden administration has said that's going to apply to other areas of law. Wherever else sex is prohibited under anti-discrimination law, they're going to say it applies to gender identity. Now, this is problematic for many reasons. For healthcare, biological sex matters tremendously. Drugs that are prescribed to people, certain conditions, mental health, so many things are specific to being male or female. OBGYN practices, of course, are dependent very much on the physical, biological realities and the differences between male and female. So it's quite a stretch to say that because one decision in Title VII, workforce employment, has to necessarily cover health. But that's what the Biden administration is saying and doing. It's taking the Supreme Court decision and it's going to apply it universally. And that's why you have this litigation now in the healthcare arena.
Roger, what's at stake with this case? Talk to us more about that. And also, how do you think this will ultimately play out?
Well, this is a battle that's going on right now. There are some forces that are saying that biological sex should not matter when it comes to healthcare. And you saw that Texas just this week opened up an investigation against big pharmaceutical companies for their use of puberty blockers in children without disclosing the potential harms under a consumer protection statute. So you have this pushback. A couple of other states have prohibited transgender surgeries on minors. Remember, these drugs and these surgeries can lead to permanent infertility and sterility in children who, as we are now discovering that as we learn more and more about gender dysphoria, naturally resolves in up to 95 to 98% of the cases, yet you have doctors using off-label drugs that have these permanent effects, surgeries on children that can never be reversed. And so many kids are coming of age saying, I was pushed onto this and nobody hit the brakes. So this is the broader issue, is what is going on in healthcare, whether we're going to follow science and good medical practice or these ideologies pushing these experimental treatments on children that will have irreversible harm on kids.
Well, Roger, thank you so much for your time in speaking about this. We always appreciate your analysis.
Thank you.
We are following several developments at the White House tonight. There is a new crackdown on China, a tribute to the victims of the Wisconsin Christmas parade crash, and a Medal of Honor ceremony for U.S. war heroes. White House correspondent Owen Jensen brings us all of those stories. Owen?
Tracy, good evening to you. We begin tonight with those military honors. Today here at the White House, President Joe Biden honoring 3 U.S. soldiers who served in Iraq or Afghanistan, 2 of whom were mortally wounded on the battlefield.
President Joe Biden hosts a special ceremony in the East Room of the White House to award 3 Medals of Honor, America's highest military citation.
Because our hearts are overflowing with gratitude today as we honor the unparalleled courage and commitment to duty and the indisputable gallantry.
Master Sergeant Earl Plumley earned the Medal of Honor for his service in Afghanistan. He helped fight off an enemy attack by suicide bombers on his base 8 years ago, armed only with a pistol.
Outnumbered with no regard for his own safety, at times armed with only a pistol, Staff Sergeant Plumley attacked the insurgent forces, taking them on one by one.
2 other Medals of Honor were awarded posthumously to Sergeant First Class Alwyn Cash, who died while saving fellow soldiers from a burning vehicle in Iraq, and Sergeant First Class Christopher Solis, who gave his life in Afghanistan while physically shielding his team from enemy fire. The White House also paying tribute to the victims of the Christmas parade tragedy in Wisconsin. First Lady Jill Biden met last night with some of the survivors. 6 people were killed and dozens injured when an SUV driver plowed through the parade. The First Lady said all of America mourns with Waukesha and honored the memories of those who died, including one young boy.
And Jackson, who loved baseball and catching frogs with his brother Tucker, who had big dreams and an even bigger heart.
Also today, the Biden administration announced new sanctions against China over its abuse of Uyghur Muslims, going after several Chinese biotech and surveillance companies. Last week, the U.S. announced a diplomatic boycott of the Winter Olympics in Beijing. The United States says China is committing genocide against the Uyghurs, forcing sterilizations and detaining them in large camps. China has denied any abuses.
In addition to those new sanctions on China, today the U.S. Senate approved a bill barring all imports from China's Xinjiang region unless businesses can prove they were produced without using forced labor. And the president is expected to sign that bill. At the White House, Owen Jensen, EWTN News Nightly.
Texas Republicans have approved new redistricting maps. The plans have caught the eye of the Justice Department. Attorney General Merrick Garland says they violate the Voting Rights Act.
The complaint we filed today alleges that Texas has violated Section 2 by creating redistricting plans that deny or abridge the rights of Latino and Black voters to vote on account of their race, color, or membership in a language minority group.
While Texas is gaining 2 new seats in Congress because of its high population growth over the past decade, mostly from an influx of Latinos and African Americans, but the plans do not include minority districts. Republicans tell EWTN redrawn maps are common.
This is a pretty much routine part of the process. Under Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act, it applies across the country, and the courts will make a determination whether or not any of these districts unnecessarily dilute minority voting strength.
Several other states are also seeing challenges to redrawn districts. The new maps will be used in next November's midterm elections. Well, yesterday we reported about a U.S. decision to remove Nigeria from a list of countries of particular concern, that is, for religious freedom violations and persecution. The Catholic Bishop of Yolanda, Nigeria, is offering his reaction.
What we would like to hear from the United States now is for them to explain to us, give us the data. How is it that Nigeria is different from Nigeria of 2 years ago?
The bishop shares that he is among many Christian families who have lost at least one relative from attacks by Boko Haram and other groups. Separately, 7 U.S. senators are asking Secretary of State Antony Blinken to put Nigeria back on that list, which includes North Korea and Saudi Arabia. At least 4 children in Australia are dead after the bounce castle they were playing inside was lifted into the air by a strong gust of wind. 4 other children are in critical condition. The victims are believed to be between 10 and 11 years old. An investigation is underway. In Kabul, a small group of Afghan women has taken the risk to protest the Taliban government. Many women have been barred from working since the Taliban took over last August. Police have made attempts to enforce restrictive rules against women, but overall economic conditions have worsened in Afghanistan. With the withdrawal of international funding, hunger has increased. Militants have also targeted innocent groups with deadly attacks. The Canadian government is warning against all non-essential travel outside the country due to coronavirus concerns.
To those who were planning to travel, I say very clearly, now is not the time to travel.
Canada's health minister says existing coronavirus concerns are worsened by the spread of the Omicron variant. Coming up, women in synodality. Hear how religious and lay women are contributing to this important process. The Australian Embassy to the Holy See organized an event this morning on the upcoming Synod. Women in Synodality included the participation of Georgetown University. A panel featured religious and lay women who are contributing to this important process for the Catholic Church. Joining us now from Rome is Chiara Porro, Australian Ambassador to the Holy See. Ambassador, welcome back. Great to see you. Can you tell us more about this event regarding the Synod?
Thank you for having me. And yes, this morning we held an event here in Rome on women in synodality. It was held in conjunction with the Civiltà Cattolica and Georgetown University. And we invited 5 women who are all involved in various roles in the Synod on Synodality. There are 2 who have leadership positions or advisory roles in the Synod of Bishops, and others who are members of different commissions of the Synod on Synodality. And it was an opportunity for them to speak about their roles and their contributions that they've made to date since the opening of the Synod in October here in Rome, but also to reflect on what it means as a woman to be involved in this process and to highlight the importance of the participation and to have the voices of women heard in this process.
Yeah, and I also now kind of want to switch gears slightly. I want to talk about the Catholic Church in Australia and the state of the Church in Australia, how it's doing. What can you tell us?
Sure. Well, like the synodal process that is happening worldwide, we have had a plenary council in Australia, which was launched by the Catholic Church. Again, the first assembly was held in October this year, and it's the first assembly was a culmination of a process, again, of consultation and listening, and the second assembly will be held next year. It's an important process for the Catholic Church in Australia because it's been a difficult period for us in Australia broadly for a number of issues, and for the Catholic Church it's an opportunity to consult the Catholic community and look to the future, focus on the issues that are of relevance to the Catholics in our country.
And before I let you go, the last time that we had you on News Nightly, you were recently appointed the role of ambassador. Can you talk about that for us, your first year in Rome, how that period was, and also was it complicated because of the pandemic?
Sure. Well, it hasn't been the easiest of years. I think in 2020 we were all hoping 2021 would be easier. It hasn't been, of course, and the pandemic has continued to affect us. I have worked quite closely in my time here with the Dicastery for Integral Human Development, who's taken a leading role in terms of the COVID response through their COVID Commission. For Australia, vaccine access has been an important issue, and we've been doing a lot in our region, in the Pacific and also in Southeast Asia. And, of course, the Catholic Church is a key actor in this, and religious leaders from all different religions are very important in this working on the pandemic-related issues. So that's been one of the priorities for me over this year. Also, this year has been quite important as we've had the COP26 meetings and a lot of negotiations and discussions on the state of the environment, the response to climate change. And we were fortunate to have a number of faith leaders gather here in Rome in October to discuss, very much led by Pope Francis, to discuss the role for religious leaders. And we had an Australian Indigenous person participate in that meeting, and it was good to have that perspective from our side of the world, which is, of course, very heavily affected by climate change issues.
Well, thank you so much for sharing all of that with us, and thank you for the work that you do. Chiara Porro, Australian Ambassador to the Holy See, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Up next, countdown to Christmas. See how the faithful in the Philippines are celebrating. And Texas heartbeat law. Hear the latest updates on the pro-life legislation.
Amen.
Catholics in Manila who received the COVID-19 vaccine are able to return to Mass today to celebrate a pre-Christmas tradition which dates back centuries. Last year, the ceremonies were all virtual due to coronavirus. Well, it is that time again to check out some of the nativity scenes sent in by you. Here's one by Louis and Dolores Baton. They share this creche with us. They say that they bought it while on tour of duty in Anchorage, Alaska with the U.S. Coast Guard. First off, thank you for your service. Merry Christmas to you both, and what a beautiful crash. All right, now we head to Guntersville, Alabama to see William and Mary Ellen Calhoun's setup. Look at this. I love it, and it includes Piper the dog. That is so great. This is the Vincente family. They live in Ocala, Florida, and here is their nativity scene, as you can see, set up in their living room, where they say they pray the rosary each and every day. It is love you. God bless you both. And finally, this one right here from Carolina and Luis Perez in El Paso, Texas. This is absolutely gorgeous. Thank you so much for sending this picture in it to share with all of us. And if you would like to share yours, send a picture to EWTN News Nightly at EWTN.com or to our Facebook and Twitter accounts. Be sure to include your name and your location, and you could see it featured right here on EWTN News Nightly. President Joe Biden's Build Back Better agenda continues to be debated in Congress and still lacks pro-life protections. The United States Conference of Catholic Bishops wrote a letter to members of Congress urging them to not pass the bill if taxpayer-funded abortion provisions are included. Joining me now is Catherine Hadro, host and managing editor for EWTN Pro-Life Weekly. Catherine, thank you so much for coming on. It's so great to see you. Let's talk a little bit more about the Build Back Better Act and the ramifications that it could have for the pro-life movement.
Absolutely. Well, as you mentioned, the Build Back Better Act, there are some major pro-life concerns there, and it did pass through the House of Representatives, but it's in this indefinite limbo right now in the Senate because Senator Joe Manchin has said he does not plan to support it, including because there are not those pro-life protections. So right now, the fate of the Build Back Better Act, it's not looking good. Negotiations are probably going to go into the next year because it's hit a brick wall right now.
Yeah, and as you know, the USCCB even wrote a letter to lawmakers. Can you speak more to their concerns?
Absolutely, and I first just want to share off in saying that the U.S. bishops have pointed out some provisions that they do support in the Build Back Better Act. You know, the need to support families and workers and to strengthen the social safety net, and there's a real conversation that needs to be had there. But they have flagged legitimate concerns that Catholics and our viewers need to know about, and that's the fact that this does not include pro-life protections, the Hyde and Helms Amendment, which would essentially allow for the expanded taxpayer funding of abortion. But what's also of concern is there are provisions that could effectively exclude faith-based providers from child care and pre-K programs. So this is unacceptable, and there's no way that the U.S. bishops or Catholics or pro-lifers will be able to support Build Back Better if these pro-life protections are not put into place.
Yeah, absolutely. Another thing I want to talk about is the Supreme Court, the ruling last week that Texas can continue to protect the lives of the unborn through its heartbeat law. However, the court also left room for legal challenges by abortion providers. Talk about the significance of this ruling, Catherine, and does it give any indication as to how the court could rule on Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health?
Well, first off, this is really good news. Pro-life groups are applauding the Supreme Court decision that came down last week because while, yes, it will allow for some lawsuits from abortion providers to move forward and continue, it also allows the Texas heartbeat law to stay in place and to stay enacted, which, Tracy, that means more lives are being saved every single day. There was one study I saw that said the Texas abortion rate fell down by half in the first month alone. Those are real lives that are being saved. When it comes to what does this Supreme Court ruling indicate about Dobbs potentially in the pro-life future, there's a lot. I mean, again, this is good that they are allowing the Texas heartbeat law to stay enacted. That is huge news. And also, my understanding is the justices did not in their decision state that abortion is some constitutional right, which again, the fact that they didn't include that does bode well, I think, for Dobbs, which we are expecting in the summer.
Yeah, and before I let you go, Catherine, we're going to kind of turn on to something different now, pivot here a little bit. I know that you have some really big news that you'd like to share with us. Tell us what that is.
Yes, well, I don't even have, words, cannot capture really the news and sentiment that I have to share today, but tonight will be my last show that I am the host of EWTN Pro-Life Weekly, and, I can't even begin to share my gratitude to this team and to the incredible 5 years that I've had being here as its host. So I really hope viewers tune in. But two things I just want to share that people might be wondering and asking. Yes, the show is going to continue. It's going to continue stronger than ever in the new year. And I cannot wait for viewers to meet the new host in the new year. And secondly, I will still be around. You will still see me from time to time here on the television screen because I'm grateful to share that I will be a contributor to the network moving forward. But Tracy, thanks for asking about that because it's been such an honor and joy to work with you and for so many people here.
Oh, Catherine, it has been my honor. I can tell you that I don't even know how to put into words how much I'll miss you, and I know that everyone else here at the network feels the same way. I mean, you've really been such a gift to EWTN and, of course, the pro-life movement. And like you mentioned, you will be back from time to time, and I know that you're going to be here for our coverage of the March for Life, and I have to say, I personally can't wait. I wish I was with you in the studio right now to give you a big hug and wish you well, but please know that we're all praying for you and your future endeavors, and know wherever it takes you, it's going to be wonderful. Thank you again, Catherine. And do you have any other final words?
Just to share that really, hosting EWTN Pro-Life Weekly has been an honor of a lifetime. I say it's the greatest honor of my life after being married to my wonderful husband, and I'm just grateful that God allowed me to serve the movement in this way, and I'm so grateful for you. I love you, friend, and I'll give you that hug soon. I'll make sure of it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I can't wait, and we all love you here, and I know the viewers do as well. And God bless you, Catherine, both you and Matt both, and we're praying for you again.
Thank you.
And we thank you for watching tonight. For the entire EWTN News Nightly team, I'm Tracy Sable. Good night, and God bless.